The theme for the Zaragoza 2008 Expo by the Spanish authorities was water and sustainable development. This was informed by the assertion that sustainable development provides human beings with all necessary ingredients for them to cover their needs and prosper without preventing future generations from doing the same. According to the Spanish government, in today's world, where economic growth is measured by production and consumption and natural resources are used indiscriminately, sustainable development has become the challenge of the century. They describe water as a social, economic and public asset. In line with the theme, the Spaniards equipped the venue of the expo with many aquatic creations. Such is the level of attention the world accords to water. Bringing it to Nigeria, it was indeed 2 engaging days of international summit on innovative ways of funding the water sector in Nigeria, hosted by President Goodluck Jonathan, which will indelibly remain an eloquent testimony to the level of commitment the Nigerian authorities have resolved to steadfastly accord the provision of social infrastructure. In our earlier episode, we brought you the various presentations at an event where this colorless, odorless life giver received attention befitting a vital element of life.
You're welcome to the concluding part of the 2-day international summit on the water sector. It's been a very, very interesting experience for me. I've learned a great deal from it. A lot of turnout. The diplomatic corps are well represented. The developmental partners, the multinationals, private sector operators, investors that are thinking of where to invest in. Could it be the water sector? And of course, authorities of government. So this is the concluding part, and sit down and watch and let us learn a new thing or two from this. I remain your uncle, Omotayo Matusho. Remember, water is life.
As the Nigerian president and the team of top government officials, former heads of state, international diplomats, notable NGO leaders, captains of industry, and potential investors listened in rapt attention, no one had any doubt that the real job of the summit lay in the discussion sessions, which opened in the afternoon of February the 18th, 2013.
This is the day that the Lord has made, and all of us in the water sector in Nigeria are delighted and joyful. We believe global stakeholders in the sector, some of who are here personally, are equally delighted, joyful, and inspired that this summit has the highest level of political backing and commitment, as it is being hosted by no less a personality than the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
As expected, those sessions put forward very interesting suggestions on how the water sector could attract easier and better funding. While creating perspective for the panel discussion which followed the opening ceremony, former Managing Director of Uganda Water and Sewerage Company, William Mukari, who is credited with turning an ailing water corporation in his country into a profit-making company, listed the imperatives for any effort that aims at turning things around, that is, transformation. It was the ideal opener for the benefits of the public-private partnership PPP model.
The prerequisite for PPPs, they said we must do internal reforms. I would like to ask you, why, in your view, are you doing this lagging behind this? What is the problem? Is it because of leadership? That we don't have managing directors who can drive the systems? Is it because of management? No, it can't be true. We have very good accountants. We have very good engineers. Is it because of poor governance and accountability? Corruption? Maybe. Is it because of the attitude of our staff and maybe our customers? We've been living in this situation for the last 30, 40 years. Our grandfathers were like this. Why are you bothering us? Or is it because of external interference from the politicians? Maybe it's because of funding. I put this question to Global Water Summit in Bali 2 years ago.
In his contribution, Gaji Bello of the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission presented the PPP as a service delivery platform which differs from traditional forms of procurement. He said for PPP, which he called a long-term investment, to succeed, the leadership must be right, among other things.
There is need for a clear institutional framework, and in my opinion, this is a precondition or a necessary condition for PPPs to be nourished in any environment. At the federal level, I'm pleased to say that the ICRC as an agency of government is already in existence. There is the ICRC law, which established the commission through an act of parliament in 2005. And within the short span of the agency, it has developed clear policies as enshrined in the MP4 policies.
For Matter 4 of the World Bank, the presidential summit was a good opportunity to espouse the successful water development models of Senegal, Burkina Faso, as well as the Philippines. It wouldn't matter much what the geography is like. A water model will work for as long as the right inputs are made into it. The current efforts of the Lagos state authorities to turn the water situation in Eko around received good mention when the managing director of the State Water Corporation, Shayo Holloway, addressed the workshop. He said risks in water investment needed to be mitigated, while good tariff will always lead to interest in continued delivery of water.
Without any doubt, the only way we can go forward is through public-private partnership. PPP. We are looking at concessions, long-term concessions, and for other states that will follow the same pattern, it is key that we bear in mind that the private operator or investor who's coming wants to recoup his investments.
The managing director of the Bank of Industry in Nigeria, Evelyn Oputo, outlined what the potential investor in a business would naturally look out for. She was of the view that a process which lends itself to objective return on investment logic is most likely to attract the investor. Besides, when the investment takes shape, only competent managers should drive it. The situation should not be different in the water sector, she posited.
So accountability is the first thing. Second thing is that government is not usually, I'm a public servant right now, and we are not usually in the business of doing business. That is not our core mandate. Our core mandate is to provide service. So if we are looking for outside money to come into it, we have to look for those people who can manage the business. So we have to look for entrepreneurs like yourselves who are here, who have certain things. One, integrity. Because when a banker is looking at a transaction, the character of the person who's working there is the critical thing.
The managing director, Grand First Lifelink, Peter Hansen, said it would not matter how hard we work if we are not going to work smart enough. For him, there are conditions a business has to meet for it to deserve its name.
So, if I was the banker, I would be very concerned. So we have to do better in the industry. So that's why I say at the end, we need to change the game towards more sustainable and scalable solutions. Inefficiency in operations, reading of meters, collection of cash, logistics, that's a cost component and a revenue component. So if we can use smart technology, we can actually decrease the cost and increase the revenue.
While the International Operations Director and Deputy Chief Executive, Water Aid, thought the Nigerian government had indeed given itself a rather commendable assignment of greatly improving the people's water needs by 2015.
So the task today is to put that ambition in the context of where we are in Nigeria. We still have over 60 million people without access to water, and we still have over 100 million people without access to sanitation. Nigeria accounts for 85,000 deaths of children under 5 due to diarrhea caused due to poor water sanitation and hygiene. It gives me great pleasure to say that in the 27 countries that I have the privilege of working across, never have I come across this level of political commitment and a cross-sectoral collaboration as I've seen in this beautiful country of Nigeria. I would therefore very warmly applaud the Office of the President, the Vice President, the Honourable Minister for Water Resources and all other ministries involved in this very noble venture. It is also interesting to see that this commitment to the summit comes close onto the heels of the very successful high-level meeting of finance ministers and ministers for water and sanitation convened by the World Bank in April 2012, and in just less than 1 year we have this very tangible explicit commitment. It is in line with Nigeria's Vision 2020 aspirations of being one of the top 20 economies in the world by the year 2020. It is in line with the transformation agenda. And therefore, there are no surprises that the ambitions stated by Nigeria, by the government of Nigeria, as part of the high-level commitments, is absolutely spot on. 45 million people with water and 70 million people with sanitation by 2015 is what the government of Nigeria has committed to, which was very warmly applauded yesterday. It was mentioned by His Excellency President John Kafur, former President of Ghana, and it was resonated in many of the other speeches.
Head of Office of the British Department for International Development, DFID, Richard Montgomery, admitted that the department had not done much to shore up water development in Nigeria, but that efforts were underway to change the situation. He noted that praise should go to the huge initiative the Nigerian government was embarking on.
I'd like to suggest that it's actually not about the money. I'm a huge admirer of the coordinating Minister of the Economy, and I think she's doing a fantastic job, and I think there are a number of huge reforms being taken place in Nigeria, and we are very optimistic about issues which Your Excellency is closely personally involved in, like power sector reform. We're very impressed with some of the reforms happening in the finance sector and in agriculture. We are fundamentally optimistic. But if there's any sector where it's not about the money, it seems to us it's water.
For her part, Charlene Pauling of the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, talked about areas of the agency's intervention in Nigeria.
One of the suggestions coming out of the donor discussion is that the donors work together even more than they already are. So we're going to be looking to work together and coordinate our activities. We always want to ensure that we're not duplicating effort and that we are leveraging resources and maximizing the resources so that what we're doing in country can be scaled up. We're also looking to ensure that the donors aren't doing this alone. Obviously, the government needs to be ensuring a substantial amount of resources in the water sector to ensure a government ownership so that we can jointly and together get to the results that are needed here in Nigeria.
So in terms of the achievement, we were able to increase the production capacity in 5 states, Enugu, Kaduna State, Ogun, Cross River and Lagos. And in the case of the Kaduna, Enugu, and Ogun, we were able to triple the capacity of production. That moved from 250 million liters per day to 700 million liters per day.
For me, as I stated in my presentation, as a woman, sanitation is the core of it. There is no way you can talk about the issues of sanitation without talking about the issues of water. The two go together. But it is very important. And what we have seen, the trend over the years that we have seen is that even donors, even partners, even investors are only committing themselves to the issues of water, neglecting sanitation. But sanitation has a huge economic value. Whether you like it or not, you can generate biogas from sanitation. You can make money from sanitation. From the West, for instance, our organization is trying to look at the issues of sawdust, trying to look at the issues of rice husks.
The country director, Agence Française de Développement, the French Agency for Development for short, underscored the relevance of a clear sector strategy in efforts to maximize gains from water.
The priority is certainly to define and implement clear sector strategies and frameworks. And in the same vein, it is also essential to have a clear regulatory framework and accountability. Regulatory oversight ensures independent appreciation of utility performance and tariff level. As far as tariffs are concerned, I just wanted to say that equitable payments have to be made, which means that payments have to be made by all users based on the consumer's pay principle. And to be socially sustainable by the both, the tariff structure has to be designed with cross-subsidies to be organized between different user categories.
The first female head of service in Nigeria, Engineer Ebele Ochekpe, also added her voice to the international talk about funding water in Nigeria.
We need the federal government, state, local government, and the communities to come together and ensure that the finances are brought to bear, and also to get the external support agencies and probably get the private sector using PPP, public-private partnership.
Governor Rotimi Amechi of Rivers State said that only the rich should pay for water, while Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State told the gathering how his state had handled water development.
The best the federal government can do is to partner, and that's what the governor of Niger State said, to partner with the state in that same way they are funding UBEC to establish water for every Nigerian, first and foremost. When that is done, please, we want the poor people not to pay, let the rich people pay. You can't afford to go to the rural areas where people are looking. They don't even want to go to school because they can't afford to pay school fees. They want to survive, they want to live. And one of the things you require to live is water.
What we have done in the course of the last 2 years of being in office is, of course, to address the regulatory framework in the water sector. So we have a state water policy now that is ratified by our executive council. We have implementation guidelines put in place for the sector. We have a new water and sanitation law which has been assented to by myself, and then the Water Corporation Amendment Act of 2012, which has also been signed into law. And most critically, we've granted our water board financial autonomy. And of course, we have also been in continuous conversation with development agencies, particularly the World Bank, the African Development Bank, as well as the European Union, that are already supporting aspects of our water reform initiative. So clearly, I agree, political support is key.
Further input on the place of water in the life of the people came from the Nigerian Ministers of Agriculture and the Environment.
Today in Africa, 85 million farmers rely on agricultural water management. So the key issues are as follows in terms of impact. If we are doing small-scale water reservoirs, we'll be able to reach in Africa today 369 million people and generate $20 billion per year. If we are talking about access to motorized pumps, we will benefit 185 million people and generate $2.5 billion per year. If you're looking at in-situ water harvesting, we will reach 147 million people and generate $9 billion a year. Bukar Tijani is here. He's done a fantastic job with Fadama in this country. If we look at that in terms of using Fadama, how many we will reach? It just runs into the million, 57 million people, and we would generate $7 billion per year. And if we look at communally managed river diversions, we will reach 113 million people and generate $14 billion per year. So basically then, it is clear that agricultural water management is more affordable, it's easier to implement, you can implement it on time, it's faster to scale, it has a greater power for actually reducing poverty.
What do we do when we talk about water? When people cannot keep their environment clean, when we have stagnant water, when we are challenged with what the children showed us this morning, dramatizing and telling us that across one stream, the cattle is having a field day. There on the same street, on the other corner, somebody is washing. And on another corner, somebody is bathing, and this is the water a woman will take back home to cook. What do we say about that? I say that no matter how much government is willing and able to fund the water sector, there must be a willingness and a desire from people to partner with government to achieve this.
As the summit drew to a close, we asked the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Water Resources, Agali, what future he saw for water development in Nigeria. Yes, we asked.
What future do you think the sector holds?
The future is bright. The future is bright first because Nigeria is not a water-stressed country. We are well endowed. That's number one. Number two, the future is bright also because there is political commitment. And I think that's what the international community has been emphasizing since yesterday. There's high level of commitment, and you see all the development partners at the highest level are all here from around the world. So with such amount of commitment, the future is bright.
The Minister of Water Resources, Sarah Ochekpe, did not directly take the gong to announce her happiness at the sharing site from the two-day international summit. But her address was a clear expression of both appreciation and satisfaction at the boost from the summit to the roadmap on water development in Nigeria.
For us in the water sector, and especially in the ministry, there are lots of things that we still need to work on, and we appreciate your partnership. We'll be consulting with you very closely as we fine-tune this issue of innovative funding, and especially the use of the PPP model in developing facilities and also providing services in the water sector.
The Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Architect Namadi Sambo, who committedly sat through the second and final day of the summit, no doubt considered that a lot had been achieved in efforts to seek innovative funding of the country's water sector. His speech conveyed very strong evidence of that.
It has been really enlightening, and I believe we are being guided properly with the presentations, and from the comments made, I believe we will be gaining experience that will assist in achieving our objective in ensuring that we have adequate potable water supply in Nigeria.
And it's all in consonance with the words of President Goodluck Ebele Johnathan GCFR right from the first day of the presidential summit. No meaningful livelihood can come from a life that is not duly watered. His government remains committed to a water policy that will bring succor into the lives of Nigerians in need of one of nature's first gifts for life. It is a noble duty, one that he has underscored with a summit that was and still is, in every sense, trailblazing.
So government is actually investing significantly in the water sector. However, the situation in our rural and suburban areas as regards access to clean water remains very, very unacceptable, as Babangida said. On the average, only 1 in 5 rural households has clean water at home. Most families collect water from unsafe sources, maybe collecting directly from rainfalls, from ponds and puddles, and from streams and rivers. It is estimated that over 350 billion naira, is about $1.91 billion, will be needed every year if the country as big as Nigeria can meet up the demands of potable water. Finally, I would like to express my appreciation to our development partners and international financial institutions for their continued support and assistance to the funding of water sector in Nigeria.
Well, viewers, this is where we call it a day at the Presidential Summit on Water. For the past 2 days, we've been deliberating on issues relating to how to devise ways of funding the water sector, because we can't leave it to the government alone. The government is creating the enabling environment, and not just the enabling environment, the goodwill to develop this sector has been so demonstrated by today's government. And so it is your responsibility and mine to ask, how can we buy in? How can we contribute our own quota? Be you an investor that is thinking of where to invest, the water sector is that area you need to explore. Well, I'm your anchor, Omotayo Motosho. I've learned a great deal from this exposition. A lot of people have come from far and near. A lot of people, as much as 30–40% of the people here today from the international community, which you and I call diaspora, attended the summit. I've learned a great deal from it. I hope you have. Thanks for joining us. Next week is another date. Do join me then. God bless you.